I'd like to introduce you to a modeling technique called Booleans, which are named after a mathematician called George Boole, by the way. You've already seen Booleans in action within the editable spline. They allow you to intersect, union, and subtract subsplines from each other. You can also do Booleans on objects, and this form of operation is considered a compound object, so it's found under here. I'll be talking about this tool, Boolean, and I'll be covering ProBoolean in another video. Both are grayed out because, after all, they're compound objects, and you need to have objects before you can use these tools. I'll go back to standard primitives and create a box, use keyboard entry, and set length and width to 12 feet and height to 8 feet. Create that at the origin point and rename the object structure. I'll give it a different color. Create a sphere also at the origin point using keyboard entry. Set the radius to 6 feet and give that object a dissimilar color. Here I'll make it red so that I can visually identify them. I'll increase the radius of the sphere until it intersects with the box. A value of about 7'6" looks good. Here I'll be modeling pendentives, which bridge the distance between piers and a dome. At this point we have two separate objects. The rule of thumb is to select the object that you'd like to end up with at the end of the procedure. Here I want to keep the structure object and subtract the sphere from it. So I've selected structure. Go to Compound Objects, Boolean. As soon as you click Boolean, that defines the selected object as operand A in the Boolean operation. Every Boolean operation has two operands, and you need to manually pick operand B. Now sphere appears over here. I'll arc rotate underneath and turn on edge faces, and you can see the sphere topology underneath. I'll go to Modify, and here the default operation is to subtract A from B. A minus B, that is. We can do the opposite, B minus A. And we would need to choose this if we had selected the sphere first and then picked the box as operand B. You can also union the objects together, and that combines their mesh structures. You can toggle edge faces off to see that the original topology of the sphere is gone now. When you union objects together, it gets rid of the inner structure. Intersecting objects finds their common volume, and cutting the object does something to the mesh structure. Here we can refine the structure by adding additional segments here. We can split the structure into different elements, which could be accessible from an Edit Mesh modifier. We could remove the inside or the outside. But in this case, we can stick with the default operation, which is to subtract A minus B. Now I'd like to adjust the curvature of the sphere because it looks a little too chunky for my liking. I'll select the sphere right here. Notice that it appears also at the base of the modifier stack. Now I can select it here and access the parameters. I'll change the segments to 64. Now arc rotate back up and go back up to the top level. Select operand A and you'll have access to the box parameters. I'll decrease the height to create a hole in the top. That sphere is still there, and basically we're just changing the relationship between the two operands by changing the height here. By the way, you can go into the Boolean, and it has a single sub-object level called operands, and here you can actually transform the operands with respect to each other. So I might select the sphere and then move it. And you can see what happens. Now in this case I don't want to do that, so I'll right click while I'm dragging to cancel out of that. And I'll go back to the top level.